Did you enter the Ridge Hennessy sweepstakes, giving you the chance to win a Ford Bronco or 75 grand in cold hard cash? If you didn't, then this is your last chance. Ridge want you driving around in a shiny new car, so they are sponsoring this video. Click the link below to be in the running or stick around to the end of the video to learn more.
So, I finally get to make a dedicated Guild Wars 2 video on this channel. Okay, so I have over 3,000 hours in this game. I'm up to date with all the content, I tweet about it all the time, I like to interrupt the news show with my ravings from time to time. Hell, I've probably lost friendships over how hard I try to push this game. You're probably thinking, why should I listen to this guy? He's obviously a Guild Wars 2 shill. And yes, while it's no secret that I love this game, my playtime in Final Fantasy XIV, Destiny 2, and WoW are also very close to those numbers. I feel like I have a well-informed opinion on MMORPGs in general to this point, but odds are you've already tried all those games I've mentioned if you have a passing interest in the genre. ArenaNet, though, are notoriously bad at marketing Guild Wars 2. A lot of people I talk to don't even know that this game has expansions, let alone 4 of them, the latest of which I'll be talking about later in this review. As a result, I feel like there's a huge audience of players this game directly appeals to, yet it lays by the wayside, under the shadow cast by bigger MMOs with bigger budgets, waiting to have its moment in the sun. Because Guild Wars 2 is, in my opinion, one of the only MMOs that lives up to the genre's name. Hordes of players banding together to take down enormous bosses, every zone permanently buzzing with activity, and cooperation encouraged by every facet of the game across every game mode. There's the exploration, especially during that first leveling experience, which invokes a true sense of adventure, enhanced by new traversal capabilities brought with every expansion. Not to mention the combat, an action/tab target hybrid that is fluid and dynamic, with so much room for skill expression, emboldened by deep buildcraft that allows you to tailor your class's functionality and playstyle on the fly. Perhaps most importantly, this is an MMO that truly respects your time and money in a way that modern live service games rarely do. I know we meme about that phrase, you know, like, wouldn't it be nice if there was an MMO that I could play forever but doesn't punish me for taking breaks, that gives me new things to chase but doesn't have a gear treadmill, that doesn't have a subscription fee but also isn't trying to nickel and dime you at every turn. It's almost contradictory, imaginary. Surely that MMO will never exist. The thing is, I think Guild Wars 2 is that game, or at least as close as you can get. Now, I was initially nervous about the latest expansion, Secrets of the Obscure, given the high bar of previous expansions and the complete lack of marketing. But I ended up pleasantly surprised. Despite being smaller in scope as a result of the game's new yearly expansion cycle, it brings with it 2 new zones packed with activities and lore to discover, a brilliant new reward system that solves some of the game's biggest pain points, and it kicks off a brand new story arc that's far more compelling than anything we've had before, making it an excellent jumping in point for anyone looking to dive into the best MMORPG that nobody talks about. This review will be broken into 2 halves. The first, a general overview of what you can expect from Guild Wars 2, and the second, my review of the latest expansion. Let's begin with your first steps. You'll be greeted by a pretty flexible character creator, even by today's standards. Each of the 5 races have such strong identity too. Their culture, their politics, their unique movement and skill animations. Take the Char, for example, a personal favorite of mine. They're hulking, warmongering beasts who run on all fours and sound like the Krogan. By contrast, the Asura, a race of small but highly intelligent Dobby lookalikes whose skill animations are nimble and acrobatic to reflect their stature. The races of Guild Wars 2 really are the foundation on which the storytelling is built on. Every major plot point and expansion hinges on their history, their conflicts, and no matter where you go interior, you'll be able to spot their influence. One aspect of the game that has garnered a lot of praise at launch and continues to be one of Guild Wars 2's greatest strengths is exploration. A wise old video game critic once said, "The best question a developer can get the player to ask themselves is, what's over there?" Well, Guild Wars 2 does this in a way I haven't seen done as effectively in any other MMORPG. Essentially, everything gives you XP in this game, discovering new areas, vistas, jumping puzzles, as well as these heart quests. These are sort of your stock standard MMO quests, except they have multiple methods of completion, and they don't require any pickup or hand-in. You can just get in and help that farmer protect his crop like the good Samaritan you are. But these simply act to guide players between your main source of XP, dynamic events. For the most part, these are not marked on your map. You will stumble into them and only see them if you're close by. These aren't just one-off favors either. Often they're multi-staged event chains that evolve as your actions impact the outcomes and where they may lead next. For example, one of the earliest events I remember is a power plant gone wrong in the Asura starting zone, where you need to purge these escaped elementals in various wings of the power plant. After you've done that, you escort a cleaning robot through the facility as it sucks up leaking magic, but he starts breaking down, so now it's a wave defense mission. If you fail, enemies will steal the robot and you'll need to go destroy it before they escape. If you succeed, you'll summon a fire elemental world boss, which requires a battalion of players to take down. Granted, this is one of the bigger events, but there's typically over a dozen smaller events per zone for you to discover. In fact, there are so many events in this game that even I, a player with over 3,000 hours, have not seen them all. These get even more comprehensive at the end game, where expansion zones have evolved this system into what are referred to as meta events. These are map-wide event chains that require coordination between multiple squads of players, culminating in huge spectacle boss fights with big rewards. They are unlike anything you've seen in any other MMO. This is massively multiplayer in every sense of the word. To this day, I do not regularly see this many players out in the open world in any other MMO unless it's right at an expansion launch. It's something you will immediately notice, from leveling zones to expansion maps to the random hidden mini dungeon of some mid-level area. You will run into players wherever you go as a result of the game's mega server system. And you'll notice just about everything in this game fosters that cooperation. It all happens organically. There's nothing you need to click to join. High-level players are scaled down to the zone so they won't one-shot everything, and anyone can help revive fellow downed players. If you've played other MMOs, often they tend to feel more like a single-player game until your dungeon or raid queue pops. Not the case here with Guild Wars 2, and it's one of the main reasons I've stuck with the game this long. That sense of adventure doesn't end when you hit max level though, as every expansion introduces new masteries, which are a sort of Metroidvania-style progression system at max level that will open up new ways to traverse and interact with the world. The first expansion, for example, Heart of Thorns, introduced the gliding mastery. Yes, that gliding that you see in Breath of the Wild, Horizon Forbidden West, etc. Imagine that in an MMO setting and how that empowers level design. The maps introduced in that expansion are, as a result, huge vertical twisting labyrinths with multiple levels of altitude that you can freely navigate. Even more so as you level up your gliding mastery and gain the ability to use wind updrafts to maintain height, or glide along streams of leyline magic. As another example, the Path of Fire expansion brought mounts to the game, but not as simple speed boosts. Each mount provides specific utility for traversing the environment. There's the Raptor, which can horizontally leap great distances, the Griffin, which can glide but also dive bomb to build speed and use the momentum to gain back height, the Roller Beetle. Picture a chopper from Halo combined with a pod racer.
These are just 3 of the 9 unique mounts available in the game, each one useful for specific situations, the way their animations transition, their acceleration, their turning circles. They feel like an actual creature that you are riding, not just a simple speed boost. It's hard to explain, you really have to get a feel for it, but this is one of the best implementations of mounts that I've seen, and again, you can see how that kind of unbridled freedom further enhances the exploration experience. Another key highlight of Guild Wars 2 is the combat. Granted, it starts a little slow during leveling, but for good reason, as there's a lot of mechanical depth here to wrap your head around. You can directly tab target enemies, but there's also many aimed skills. There's no global cooldown, and most of your attacks cleave multiple enemies in range, so there's no need for separate AoE skills.
There's a dodge roll managed by a stamina bar, and you need to manage crowd control skills to manipulate the battlefield and break enemy posture. It's this fast, dynamic hybrid of action and tab target combat that rewards positioning and counterplay across both PvE and PvP activities. 5 of your abilities are dictated by the weapon you're wielding, and the other 5 are your class utility skills, which can be swapped out as you please. While it may appear as if you have a very limited number of skills on your hotbar at one time, most classes can equip 2 weapon sets to swap between mid-combat, with abilities for each weapon being unique to each class. So for example, my greatsword skills on my Guardian are entirely different to the greatsword skills on my Necromancer. A common misconception is that Guild Wars 2 doesn't have roles like DPS, tank, and healer. And while true at launch, this is no longer the case, as you will now combine all these elements to construct builds that fulfill these roles, particularly for the game's multitude of endgame activities. On the PvE side, you've got 10-man strikes, which are sort of single boss fights with challenge modes to up the ante. They're kind of like Final Fantasy XIV trials, as well as the fractals of the mists, which are 5-man dungeons with random modifiers and 4 difficulty tiers to work through. There are raids, 7 whole wings to be exact, and they're fantastic encounters that really take advantage of the game's deep combat framework. The bad news, the last one was added 4 years ago, discontinued due to a lack of engagement, hence the studio moving to strikes, which are more resource savvy and satisfy that crowd for the most part. You've also got the PvP mode with automated tournaments, and World vs. World, a persistent large-scale PvP mode where entire servers battle over castles and keeps with the assistance of siege weaponry. There is more than enough here for someone casually invested in the endgame experience like myself, but you know, if you're looking for world-first raid races or regular new PvP maps and modes to keep things fresh, you're unlikely to find that here due to a slower content cadence compared to other MMOs. That said, all the content that does get added never really goes out of style. They stay relevant forever with consistently worthwhile rewards. Between all the exploration and combat, though, you're also, of course, the hero of this story. A story that spans over a decade of releases if you decide to play through from the beginning. Your battle is predominantly against the Elder Dragons, ultimate apex predators that awake from their hibernation to feed on magic across the land, cause undue destruction in their wake for millennia before returning to their slumber, thus resetting the cycle. Most of the dialogue in this game is fully voice acted, from your own character to the main cast to even ambient NPCs, with perhaps the biggest cast of well-known voice actors in any video game ever. I'm not joking. Jennifer Hale, Troy Baker, Nolan North, Yuri Lowenthal, Jen Taylor, and at least half the cast of Critical Role. Think of any big-name voice actor in the industry, and I guarantee you they play a significant role, or multiple, in this game.
What do I do? The villagers are asking questions that I can't answer.
Is the story good, though? Look, it's solid, the core story is so-so, but the expansions are far better in their writing, delivery, and set-piece moments that are quite spectacular to behold, often feeling like something you'd expect from the likes of a big-budget single-player title. Barring a couple moments though, yeah, it probably won't blow your socks off. I've always described it as a very Marvel-style story, for better or worse. It's fun, it's flashy, it's quippy, maybe too often at times. Just easy to digest, light-hearted entertainment. But remember when Marvel released Daredevil, the Netflix show, not the movie? We all watched that, sat back, and were like, damn, that was actually good.
A show that was smaller in scale, darker in tone, proved that Marvel could produce some high-quality content that stood on its own merits, without the benefit of being part of some grand saga. Well, I think Guild Wars 2 just had that moment.
Cryptis won't be our end.
So I've given you a high-level overview of Guild Wars 2, but let's now talk about the latest expansion, Secrets of the Obscure. I would forgive you if you didn't know this expansion launched last week. Hell, I know some Guild Wars 2 players who didn't know this was coming until they saw it mentioned in a random Reddit post. ArenaNet have built a reputation for not being great at marketing their own game. The devs clarified ahead of time that this expansion would be smaller due to a new content delivery model of yearly expansions instead of once every 2 to 3 years. So not gonna lie, I was concerned. Genuinely felt like this would be make or break for the game, as this release would set the bar for the level of quality we can expect in the future. What were they hiding, we wondered aloud? Is there just nothing to show? Is the expansion underbaked? Are they setting expectations low so we'll be less disappointed? Turns out the secret was that the expansion is pretty good? So, the setup. There's a society of wizards who have been secretly protecting the world from otherworldly threats that have been attempting to invade from other dimensions. Promise that's the last Marvel reference. This is a completely new story arc, as the last one wrapped up in the last expansion, and the writers have taken the opportunity here to offer up a story that is noticeably more dark than usual. It starts out very strong, introducing us to a new demonic race known as the Cryptis, and 2 new antagonists, which have far more interesting motives than the game's past villains. The Elder Dragons were simply forces of nature. They didn't have much personality or personal agenda outside of eating magic and conquering the world, so it certainly wasn't a very nuanced story. In Secrets of the Obscure, we have sexy demons and their family drama. I don't know about you, but that is far more compelling. The performances behind these 2 in particular is fantastic. They perfectly portray the kind of intimidating demeanor and gravitas you'd expect from demon royalty.
And what do you plan on doing with your new champion? Take them to the king?
I have not decided. The wizard was Eparch's prize.
The demons have slipped through the wizard's defenses, causing an outbreak of possessions. Among the compromised is a few key members of the High Council of Wizards who you must go on a mission to exorcise. All the new and returning characters were excellent. This is a ragtag group of exiles that each have interesting backgrounds and lore that you can further explore through side quests. It's a story of found family that did land for me as a result of great writing and performances. The story ends on a really captivating setup with an unlikely alliance that plans to end the demon threat, and I'm very keen to see where this story leads in future updates. Despite this being advertised as about half the size of a typical expansion, it was honestly a lot meatier than I was expecting, taking about 8 hours to complete, and that's beelining it. While there was a lack of set-piece moments compared to previous expansions and multiple story steps involving needless padding, the quality of the story and world building made up for it, leaving a fantastic first impression that serves as an excellent point of entry for new players. One of the new features introduced with this expansion is rifts. You can pull out this orb that you can fondle for a couple seconds, you'll be guided in the direction of a rift, you clear the Cryptis surrounding the rift, you fondle the orb again to open the rift, you kill the Cryptis boss, you fondle the orb another time to then close the rift and get your rewards. Probably not a good enough excuse to say fondle this many times, but like, what else do you call this? Anyway, this is part of the padding I mentioned. The campaign has you do this many times, and to be honest, I was already kind of done with it the first time. I think the main reason for that is that the new enemy type, the Cryptis, just don't feel that interesting to fight. They're using the exact same rigs and animations as previous enemies we've fought
fought before, and there's nothing fundamentally wrong with that, but the fact that their movesets are also the same doesn't help to make them feel at all unique. It's a consequence of Guild Wars 2's combat being so animation-led, and content being evergreen. Like, I fought this same frog enemy 2 hours ago in a Heart of Thorns zone, so it's all fresh in my memory. That said, this is of course much less of an issue if you're a new player. I'm not a fan of the designs either. Unlike the two demon villains, they're very noisy in their silhouette. A lot of disjointed floating limbs and spikes that don't deliver on the kind of grotesque, fleshy horrors you'd expect from the same realm as the villains. This, along with the blinding puddle AoEs that they drop everywhere, make them very difficult to read in combat in a game where visual noise can already be a problem at times. Rewards-wise, these rifts, they're fine. They drop materials that you can use to craft sellable items, or for the new legendary armor set that's being added in a future update. So you won't have any trouble finding groups to farm them. They're designed to be soloable, so they melt in like 2 seconds, but you can upgrade those rifts into higher tiers for more difficulty and rewards. And a future update will be apparently expanding on this for a more group-focused experience. I have mixed feelings on these, honestly. I think this kind of on-demand content stands in opposition to the organic nature of the dynamic event system that the game is praised for. But I guess those still do exist in spades, so it's just more optional stuff to do, really. And man, is there a lot of stuff to do in this expansion. There are 2 new zones to explore set above the clouds, both absolutely packed with events, side quests, lore nuggets, Korok Seed-style puzzles, and traversal challenges. Skywatch Archipelago is this chain of floating islands, each one a chunk of zones we've visited before, but pulled from an alternate simulated timeline. Definitely some very sus practices going on by the wizards. Amnitas is the second map, a collection of once pristine academies serving as the wizards' hub of research, but the first casualty of the Cryptus invasion, now crawling with demons and tainted by their corruption. Reception on these 2 new zones seems mixed. Personally, I love Amnitas, especially in its visuals with its decadent halls and towering constructs, unlike anything we've seen from the game, though performance can be shaky at times. I found Skywatch, though, didn't quite do enough to push that alternate reality theme, and because I'm still regularly visiting the zones from which these areas came from, the visuals just, didn't quite impress me, but I know many would disagree. To navigate these islands, players gain access to the Sky Scale, which is the game's only true flying mount. It's been in the game for years, but you needed to own a specific story season. It involved a very long and tedious collectathon and burned more than a few players out, myself included. Here though, you'll have unfettered access to the Sky Scale within the expansion zones, with a more streamlined quest line to unlock it permanently. As a result, these levels have really been designed with flying mounts in mind. And yeah, safe to say, I've never had to contend with environments nearly this much since getting the Sky Scale all those years ago. Overall, it just feels great to have level design that isn't trivialized by flying mounts for once, and I'm honestly impressed that the studio is able to continue to pull off that Metroidvania style progression despite players having access to so many tools already. The 2 big new meta events on these maps are kind of underwhelming though. While they deliver on the spectacle these events are known for, they don't require the same amount of coordination or leverage the combat system as much as the game's best encounters do. That said, perhaps it's that way by design, because new players aren't expected to be as powerful as regular players, especially because they'll be lacking a critical component of their build, and elite specialization. Yes, a key thing to know is that purchasing this expansion will not give you access to an elite specialization. So this locks you out of a lot of builds, and you'll be noticeably less powerful than players that do have them, so you might have difficulty getting into the harder content like the 2 new strikes. Elite specs open up so much flexibility and experimentation. Without them, you're almost playing half a class. So yeah, at the moment, you'll need to purchase previous expansions to gain access to the elite specs they've introduced. This is because, unlike previous expansions, Secrets of the Obscure did not bring new elite specs. Instead, they've opened up Buildcraft in a new way through Weapon Mastery, which allows classes to have access to their elite spec weapons baseline. So for example, the Guardian's Dragon Hunter spec gave you exclusive access to the longbow, but you can now use that on any Guardian spec. Bit hit or miss depending on your class, and there's obviously balance tuning that needs to take place, but a fun addition to Buildcraft nonetheless. They've also reworked the rune system. Before, you slotted these into your gear to build a sort of set bonus, but a lot of the runes were just dead to you, because even if the bonus was cool, the stats just might not fit your build. Now, that unique final perk has been decoupled from runes to become this new relic item, so you can mix and match to your heart's content. Hasn't quite landed in the way we hoped. I'm all on board with the concept, and some of the more unique relics are interesting on paper, but most of them just feel very undertuned and inconsequential at the moment, with a handful of the cool pre-existing perks still missing from the game. Again, I like the idea, but the execution at the moment leaves a little to be desired, and I hope this system gets the work it needs to be more playstyle defining. Honestly, the crowning jewel of this expansion though, aside from the story, is this, the Wizard's Vault. You might compare this to a battle pass in the sense that it's a seasonal reward system with new cosmetics to unlock that refresh every 3 months, but it's easily the most consumer-friendly version of this system that I've seen. First of all, it's non-linear. You complete these daily, weekly, and seasonal achievements, which each reward a special currency. You can then use that currency in this shop to purchase anything you choose, from cosmetics to utility items, materials, etc. Any cosmetics exclusive to this shop do not disappear at the end of the season. They simply rotate into an archive section where they'll be available forever at a higher cost. Speaking of cost, if you were to complete every achievement throughout the season, you would earn over 14,000 currency. The most expensive item in this shop costs 1,000. You will have more than enough to buy everything in this shop multiple times over. The best part is, this thing is completely free. No paid progression, no premium tier, nothing. In fact, it exists to solve one of Guild Wars 2's biggest pain points, goal setting. You see, there's basically no vertical progression in this game. It's horizontal. All content is relevant. So much content is competing for your time to net you gold, materials, XP. It can be difficult to grasp where to start, what you should do on any given day. This system really helps with that. It's not perfect, you know, there's been a few bugged objectives, but overall, I've never been so compelled to log in each day, knowing that if I'm feeling lost, there's some simple objectives waiting for me to tick off for some easy rewards. And those rewards are very high value for both new players and veterans alike. My favorite, there's a mount skin. That might sound strange coming from other MMOs like, oh, every expansion has new mounts, but this is actually unusual for Guild Wars 2, as the mounts themselves are these one-off account-wide unlocks, and the skins for them have previously only existed as cash shop exclusives. This, combined with a new earnable Skyscale skin, several emotes and capes unlocked through side quests, this all signals a shift in ArenaNet's reward model. One more generous with the kind of offerings earnable through gameplay. This is an exciting prospect to me as someone who's taken regular breaks from the game just because I can't figure out what to do or that there's nothing new to chase. Secrets of the Obscure has hooked me since its launch. Between all the new rewards to earn, masteries to unlock, an unprecedented number of side stories that contain rich lore and flesh out these new characters, I'm just very impressed by how much content this $25 expansion offers. If this is what we can expect moving forward, then I'm all in.
Fear not this night, you will not go astray. Though shadows fall, still the stars find their way,
As I mentioned, this game has no subscription fee. In fact, the entire base game is free to play, and while it doesn't quite reflect the game's current level of quality, it'll at least give you a taste of the game's exploration and combat, so you can make an informed decision on whether you pick up the expansions. The cash shop isn't predatory, it's all cosmetics and utility items, but I wouldn't say much here is absolutely necessary. If you do decide to buy stuff, the premium currency bundles give you the exact amounts you need to purchase most things directly, but you can also instantly exchange the in-game gold into the premium currency to buy these things without paying a cent. The max level cap has not been raised since launch, and you can get the gear necessary to play all the most challenging content in under just a couple hours. Nothing is gated by your main story progress. If you own the expansions, you can just jump in and play the content with your friends in any order you choose. No hurdles or crazy time commitment required. The game is also incredibly alt-friendly. Almost everything is account-wide, from currencies to masteries. In fact, I have not had to level a single character from level 1 beyond the first one, because you can essentially level your alts on your main by earning these tomes from various activities. There's no server downtime, no login queues due to its fantastic server infrastructure, and there's so much other stuff in this game that I couldn't fit into this review. The jumping puzzles and mini dungeons, there's mini games and mount races you can find out in the open world, genre-leading festival events, guild missions and guild halls. There's an expansive transmog and die system that ensures you'll never come across two players that look the same, and this game also works really well on the Steam Deck. While Guild Wars 2 released to critical acclaim back in 2012, ArenaNet couldn't quite hold onto that momentum, and the game eventually fell out of sight and out of mind for many. But with over a decade of updates expanding its systems and content offering, Guild Wars 2 in 2023 is a very different game now. One with an arsenal of tools to enhance exploration, it's got complex buildcraft and customization, alongside a rather comprehensive endgame. And it isn't slowing down either, with Secrets of the Obscure now raising the bar with what we can expect from the storytelling, side quests, rewards, and despite some minor grievances, I think it's a great entry point for new players. According to their roadmap, the year ahead will continue this riveting new story arc, introduce another new zone that'll evolve over time. There'll be a new instanced rift activity, a new legendary armor set, more relics, new weapon options for every class, and much more. And then when that's all done, the next expansion drops. I was expecting some serious growing pains with Secrets of the Obscure, knowing it'd be smaller in scope, but surprisingly it's landed to near unanimous acclaim, and I have confidence that ArenaNet can keep that momentum going with this new content model. The future is looking very bright indeed, and if anything I've said in this review piques your interest, you won't regret giving this game a shot, and perhaps we'll even cross paths someday on your Guild Wars 2 journey.
Last month, we shouted out Ridge's third annual Hennessy sweepstakes. This is a partnership with auto upgrader Hennessy that puts you in the running to win a Ford Bronco, and if that doesn't interest you for some reason, you can win 75 grand in cold hard cash. Just to be super clear, you actually don't need to spend a dime to be in the running for this. You just click on the link below, enter the sweepstakes, and that's it. Just visit the website, enter, boom, you're done. Hopefully you win yourself a brand new car or a bucket of cash. But if you do want to grab a Ridge wallet or a key case, then there's never been a better time. To coincide with the Hennessy Ford Bronco sweepstakes, they've released a limited edition Hennessy themed wallet and key case. It's got a sleek black finish sporting a very smart orange racing stripe. I like it. But if you don't, then that's cool, because there's a huge selection of colors and styles available, from the popular matte black to red to navy to tons and tons more, really. Just recently, they launched a number of new styles like their Base Camp Orange or this one, Damascus. I've been rocking the North Shore style for over a year now, and I never thought I'd switch off it, but as soon as I cracked open Damascus, I was like, nice. I've now switched over both my wallet and my key case to the Damascus, and they are my daily drivers. By this point, you might already know about Ridge Wallet, but if you don't, then let me tell you, it's the wallet evolved. A fact I can personally attest to, as I've been using Ridge Wallet for many years now, well before they sponsored the channel. Ridge Wallet holds all of your essential cards plus your cash using the money strap or money clip, and they take up a fraction of the space of the old bulky leather wallets that you used to use. I really can't imagine going back to one of those, by the way. In addition to that, Ridge Wallets protect you from scammers with RFID protection, plus they come in a range of ultra durable materials including titanium. Ridge stuff is top tier, and now they're giving you the chance to win a car or some cash. You can enter that giveaway without spending a dime. However, you get one bonus entry for every dollar you spend on the site, and the custom Hennessy products come with up to 1,000 bonus points. To cap all of this off, if you click that link below and use offer code SKILLUP at checkout, you will get up to 10% off your purchase, no strings attached. If you've ever been considering a Ridge wallet, then now is the best time. That's ridge.com/skillup and use offer code SKILLUP for 10% off. To cap all this off, if you click that link below and use offer code SKILLUP at checkout, you'll get 10% off your purchase and an extra 10 entries into the Hennessy sweepstakes. Get yourself a shiny new wallet and maybe a shiny new car to match. Thanks Ridge for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.